Aw, Kitty Haseo. Oh god, please don't hurt me! Ah! It's time for the first match, Haseo calling Adley. They're sadly man down as Syllabus isn't up for it, having to comfort Gaspard in the crowds.
And really, this is the last step in the slowly fraying sanity that Haseo bears. Because it's all riding on this. If he can't get past these three, who he once conquered so effortlessly, well...
It's easy to be beaten into submission when it's 3-on-1 and you're at the same strength as them. But to fail and to fail and to fail when people are depending on you, it eats at you, gnaws at the things you would try to keep bounded away, lets free those darker impulses a sane man would chain down without a thought. And with so much on the line...
Let's go! What's the matter? Try and say something, huh?
I can't be finished! They're all counting on me! If I lose here, then I won't be able to protect anyone!
That's the final strand that unravels the chain. In the moment of death, take the devil's power.
I swear, I am going to kill you with my own hands! And hindrance and triage!
I have found you!
Awaken, and welcome home.
It's here!
With Scathe active, Haseo cuts down Team Only One target in a single move, only stopped at the last moment from dealing fatal damage by Adley's pleas.
And by fatal, I mean, of course, comatose inducing. A phase's awakening is one of the most volatile events for the users, as this is the point where they go rampant. It happened with Kun. It will happen to the others. That Haseo has enough control to hold back and contain his power instinctively shows that this isn't the same.
However, Scathe isn't the only thing that came back.
It's my opinion that Sora has remained part of Scathe since the phase was called back into the world, and the awakening begins a reintegration of a part of Rio that he has long lost. It explains the giddiness he feels, the satisfaction he takes in combat, and the arrogance we'll see that contrasts with how he normally acts. As now, he doesn't care about the consequences, and it will take some time before he does again.
It may just be a high from, as I've tried to depict, being repeatedly denigrated for so long, and finally succeeding in defiance of everyone's words. But now Haseo feels he can lash back, shown by how he acts towards Pai and Kun when they confront him. Kun angry because he used that power on people. Not infections or system instabilities, but people.
And with the context that he's Katsumi from Liminality, we know where he's coming from. Not only was he a former victim of this kind of thing, Haseo awakened the one that did it to him. Worse, because of how Sora and Ryu were tied to Scathe back then, they might as well have done it to him themselves.
And after everything Haseo's been through, Haseo can't see that. Can only see it as poetic justice that these tormentors of people so much weaker than them are beaten with the same level of ease. That was part of his purpose as a PKK, to show these brats what it feels like from the end of the blade they forced upon their victims. And Kun argues back that's the same as that which has damaged the system. They're both wrong, but Kun technically more than Haseo.
After all, Endred seems to have done well spamming Maha without hurting anyone. That's really where his argument falls apart. It can be done.
And the flaws in his argument are because all he knows about epitaphs comes from Pai.
As far as he is concerned, an avatar is nothing more than a useful tool.
Because a precision tool stops being that when it learns it can be used for other things. And I think the way she's viewed them is in how they can be used. it'd explain a lot if she intentionally remained detached, especially about her interaction with Haseo.
As Haseo refuses to be controlled.
Ultimately, this is about conflicting views on what they consider necessary. Haseo knows the limits of the system will not get him anywhere. He's run through it all before. Because of the level reset and time limits, the conventional method isn't going to work. And not only were they not giving him another option, they were telling him to quit. So the only choice left was defiance, to treat them as another blockade.
Don't get me wrong, what Haseo has done here today has consequences he can't even begin to see. But like the Forest, like his time as a PKK, there wasn't another way to deal with it. No better path made available. One misstep, one moment of hesitation, and everything he quests for can be lost. In the news, there are two things of relevance, both in video form. The first is a momentary sight of Bordeaux in the hospital. Her loss of consciousness was noted. The second is an episode of Online Jack.
Yeah, I mentioned that a while back. Online Jack is GU's version of Liminality, only with far shorter segments that are released periodically through the news updates.
The host, Salvador Ayahara, is investigating the spread of Doll syndrome, in specific a case of middle schoolers that have all caught the affliction.
While also being an enormous pervert and accosting people in the name of journalism. You know, I'm not aware of the journalism laws in Japan, but I'm pretty sure you're breaking enough to be thrown in jail.
However, when he breaks into the home of one of said students...
And that caught your interest, didn't it? What is the connection to Aiden Sakaki? Oh, that will come!
Granted, the suspicion is directly raised when said douchebag calls Adelie out for a secret meeting in the back alleys of Makanu in a cutscene made in the third-person omniscient perspective when most of the game is restricted to third-person limited around Haseo. Speaking of the protagonist, he meets up with Syllabus and Gaspard, and there's no good way to say in brief how grateful they are to Haseo.
I mean, after all, I am Canard's guildmaster. It's my job.
And that's important to remember. It's not just for himself.
They promise to pay him back, as Haseo gets a message from Raven. With his avatar awakened, Haseo has something to offer them. And thus Yada offers the carrot, recordings to the Twin Blade using data drain on various players. Their investigation has already confirmed the players he drains are in comas, and as he doesn't use the Chaos Gates, they can't track his activity. Antares asks for Haseo to stop by Lumina Cloth, introducing him to the guild E Colo. E Colo is a guild made exclusively for the Arena Emperors, started by Antares himself when Lumina Cloth first opened. However, to Antares at least, E Colo has fallen a long way since he led the guild, the various emperors too prideful, too full of themselves to be worthy of their positions. And that's part of why he's taken Haseo under his wing. He sees potential to break the stagnation this is causing, people so obsessed with winning for themselves that they ignore everything else. The scene introduces us to several key players, Sirius of the Holy Palace, Taihaku, remember him from Roots, of the Sage Palace, who's more aware of his issues and at least polite towards Antares and Haseo, likely remembering him from the Forest.
Yeah, that weapon he got from it, Maxwell, it's what allows him to rule the Sage Palace unopposed, as it negates skill-based abilities of his enemies.
And lastly, the former Demon Palace Empress, Alkaid.
Alkaid. Damn it!
Yeah, I mentioned her back in the Black RX videos. Alkaid's the second most popular character in GU after Haseo. Why will be shown in time.
I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass.
The pride thing is more prevalent in her, as due to how Endurance so easily eliminated her with Maha, not only is her ego bruised, she's lashing out at those around her. She's a person that thrives in competition, and hates cheating or unfair fights, and due to how Endurance acts, she believes he cheated. And that attitude, much like Haseo's own at times, breeds antagonism.
Essentially, she's a less bitchy version of Asuka Langley Soryu, fiery and forceful, but not to the same extreme. She mellows out later.
As they exit, Antares explains what I did, that they need fresh blood to get them out of the rut, and Haseo leaves to his thoughts. While Haseo is willing to work with GU to stop Triage and get Shino back, Yada keeps making the same mistake in trusting Haseo's handling to Pi, as later on he sends a message of an Ida-infested area they can use to train Haseo's use of Scathe, and sends only Pi.
Coons refused to interact with Haseo right now, which is a bad thing. While the lecture he gave was necessary, he and Pi stressed different things. And that ill will streak isn't the most helpful.
Especially as she uses Shino against him. Hitting below the belt there.
You think all you have to do is dangle that? Like master, like servant, huh?
He really would be more receptive if you treated him as an equal. Still, it's not without reason. They know about the Revive Aura plan and what went wrong. Those people still have yet to recover by this point. It's here we are finally introduced to Avatar battles and the Ida in full. And this really helped differentiate it from the original quartet. Avatar battles, while simplistic, are their own brand of fun, as you really can't die from them.
However, Skaith's power relates to one's own character level, so if you happen to be Avatar leveled and face something in the mode, you have a far more difficult time.
Not that it'll result in game over, but you will do less damage and take more in response, needing to more nimbly dodge attacks, though they react at the same speeds. Fortunately, as long as an avatar isn't data drained, you can recover and it doesn't send you into game over. It just becomes exhausting to get through at times. Data drain is the cincher, but after Protect Break requires you to charge it up and then hit the target, which is frustrating as any damage can reset the charging and you aren't allowed to move very fast. It can result in them regenerating protection before they actually stop long enough to accurately lock on. Unfortunately, multiple phases used in concert causes system instabilities, so we never get a chance to see them working in concert. But their users can transmit power to the active one for better control and stability. The area has more IDA signals for more practice with the mode, which, if you're high enough, are similarly easy. As they eliminate the last signal, Pi gets a call from Yada that something else was in the area. Despite the months investigating, they're still only scratching the surface of what IDA is, so a lot of questions about it are still unanswered. Most notably, with the phases being their only available method for cleaning them out, for all they know, their use might be making things worse. Which is where Pi makes the mistake. See, she also has a phase in her possession, but she hates it, and she insists on using it against this last Ida as it's an unknown. Well, more unknown than the others. They haven't seen a surge like this. And then something unexpected happens. There are other players here, and when Ida moves towards them, Pi throws herself in his path, taking the hit.
Pi said earlier that she and Haseo are the same. While I highly disagree with that, they share one commonality that is shown from this act. They're trying to limit exposure to people who aren't already involved. Her shouting out Haseo was wrong because he's already involved as much as her, and she doesn't realize how personal it is, because she hasn't come to terms with her own conflict of interest.
Because she got involved out of obligation, out of a drive of responsibility, out of love, as she was entrusted with the will of the dead, to protect the world from the danger that lies buried in the code, and she joined CC Corp to do just that. And even now she doesn't trust Haseo, telling him to run and get Kun, because when she really was like how she views him, she didn't trust herself. She still doesn't.
Because Pi's phase didn't bond to her, she was given it and it rebels against her. Her phase is Tarvos, the Avenger, given to her by her brother June. Pi's name is Reiko Saeki.
And her drive to control works against her, as after everything she's impressed about how dangerous a rampaging avatar is, there's no way he'll leave Pi alone to become another lost one. So there's only one path to salvation.
I will save you. I swear!
Tarvos looks terrible. Like a woman in bondage.
Ugh. I mean, Megas looks like a Naga, yeah, and Maha's reminiscent of the original. Skaith's a devil, but really?
Why turn her pigtails into wings? Why the spikes? I mean, yeah, Pi's character model looks like a stripper, but sexuality is not the first thing that comes to mind when I think Avenger.
And why are her pigtails now giant wings?
Look, I love these games, but there are just some things that are unbelievably stupid. While the Anna Idas are predictable, the phases each have their specials manifest in unique ways related to their designs. Homing darts, stakes of death, can use those freaking wings as shields. And of course, data drain is a danger. You can't dodge it, only button mash to throw off the blast, as that's all it does if you're not protect broken. Sadly, due to how svelte Tarvos' main body is, when Protect broken, it's the hardest to hit with a charged data drain shot, made worse by its propensity to shield itself with the pigtail wings. And if you're under-leveled, that raises the difficulty even higher. Once you do hit it, Scathe devours a piece of Tarvos, and Pi collapses. And Haseo flashes back to Shino, desperately trying to wake her up. And finally does she begin to understand how wrong she was. Pi's fine, but the bystanders are grateful, being shooed off with Raven's cover story about being bug fixers. But then we get a message from Adelie. Yeah, the two they saved were the real leaders of Moontree, Zelkova and his aide Kaede.
Yeah, while Sakaki's the public face and the preacher to the cultists, Zelkova actually started it to try and rally people to have fun in groups, and safely away from the malicious PKs. It's only when said twit came around that they started becoming known as the douchebags of R2.
What's funny is when Adelie calls Haseo, she thinks he did something to anger the entire guild, so she greets him by pointing out a bunch of his character flaws and getting on his nerves in a whole new way.
Are you trying to pick a fight?
What exactly did the two of you do to get into so much trouble?
Yeah, she jumped to conclusions, a frequent problem with her making assumptions that stick in her mind. It's an unfortunate character flaw that's been beaten.
No, that's not the right word. Pushed onto her? Inflicted? Reinforced? Ugh. I hate when I can't think of the phrases I want to use.
Anyways, it's not completely her, and she's appropriately apologetic when it's revealed before the Seven Council.
Spelled S-E instead of C-I because Bandai of America Competence Black Hole. The only ones acting as advisors, as the spelling implies, are doing it in the manner of Jehovah's Witnesses.
In gratitude, Haseo's given a stat book, and we also see a bit of the interfaction politics at play, Sakaki not so subtly scheming to take over the guild with his worshippers, seeing Zelkova, his guildmaster, as just another player.
Contrast this against Gabi, who lets his members effectively do what they want, and yet he's beloved for the actions he does take, because he encourages them to have fun and challenge themselves. And yet Sakaki arguably does even less to merit his people's loyalty.
In addition, he's tipped off to his next opponent. Seems Matsu likes to spend his spare time challenging people in the arena, as he does so enjoy PvP. Of course, the animosity born out of his minion-esque behavior towards Sakaki sparks conflict between the two, but it'll soon be settled. As they leave, though, Pi gives a similar warning to Kun about his avatar usage.
But guildmasters from the two most powerful guilds are interested in you.
So really, 8 months and nothing's changed. What, I like to ignore Roots as it streamlines continuity, but the criticism is a valid one.
Hell, he was famous before this. Or did you forget the moniker Terror of Death, which keeps getting emphasized? She's not wrong, though. What if someone had access to system files and somehow found a way to record evidence of the avatars? While I've been hesitant to go over the news, this one about a new space station coming online in the .hack universe amused me.
Because does that not look like the Gunslinger satellite from Digimon World 3? Considering some of the ways .hack develops, I'm amazed more parallels didn't come up. I guess it's because one's more focused on the adventure and the collectible monsters, the other's on character.
Anyways, it's time for the match with Matsu, and, showing he's not a complete jerk, asks Adelie if she's okay with this, only to see more of the Sakaki obsession. Her world really does seem to revolve around the guy. Haseo was showing concern and respect for her views, but it's not an issue if someone else tells her it doesn't matter, especially a man planning a coup.
You just eat up whatever Sakaki tells you, don't you? In the end, you're always just spouting off someone else's opinions.
And now we're seeing more of Sora peek through, as that earlier kindness turns cruel. Because while she won't stand up for herself, that doesn't mean she won't stand up for others. The match is actually an evenly balanced one, both sides pushing their limits.
In storyline, at least. When I do this, I'm usually 3 to 5 levels above them.
But it makes Matsu pull out the stops, as he's an adept rogue that's limited himself to one weapon, and so he's unleashed his broadsword, the legacy he's kept from his older PK days. It's ultimately a bad decision, as though he's more skilled with it, steam guns are faster to use, and he needs speed to beat twin blades, which I favor in the arenas. It inevitably leads to his loss, and it's not something Matsu's happy with. See, he stopped using broadswords as part of an agreement when he joined with Moontree, and he thinks Zelkova, who was watching, will throw him out. likely reinforced from Sakaki's words and actions.
Because Sakaki's a dick like that.
So he's honestly surprised to find Zelkova nothing like that, understanding that this fight was what he needed to finally put his lineage as a PK behind him. And he takes it a bit literally, handing over his flame sword broadsword to Haseo. And Natalie, after it's all over, runs off on her own, still hurting, stopping Haseo from apologizing. Pyros has found another Triad sign over at Hidden Forbidden Boltwork, which is a massive wall on the edge of the known realm. And Ovan is seen there, having called Yada. And they speak of ideologies of the world, Yada's view limited, but Ovan seeing beyond.
But I can feel it. It feels like there's something being held back behind this wall.
And on that day, mankind received a grim reminder. We lived in fear of the Titans, and were disgraced to live in these cages we called... Wait. I'm saving the Attack on Titan quotes for the Winston event.
It's not dissimilar. In the game background, the wall was built to prevent passage onto the heavens, and surrounds all of the known environments of R2.
This place is a prison.
He'll kill every last one of them and break free of these walls! That one makes more sense later on, trust me.
Anyways, they leave and Haseo and Pyros warp in, Pyros deciding to set up camp and wait for Triads to return. We'll get back to this. Antares calls Haseo to Lumina Cloth and insists he follow Alcade, letting him witness the altercations he has with Endrance, who she's trying to get a rise out of, learn how he cheated against her so he won't be able to do it on her again. While Endrance may be apathetic, he can see skill and talent. Alcade above Haseo if he were to refuse use of Skaith as the PKK tries to boast.
Don't get yourself so blinded by your foolish pride that you lose sight of what's in front of you.
And sadly, that is what is happening. After failing for so long, the little progress he's made has gone to his head.
I want to think of Sora slipping back in. I do. But it just gels too much with the personality we've been shown to fully account for it. I mean, third form Haseo from Roots was crazy, unable to really distinguish friend from enemy. And we're seeing that again here, just in a different form. The power is going to his head.
And Antares reminds him that kind of thinking is dangerous, as if you delude yourself with the thought that you can't fail, then you just might.
Pride is not a bad thing, though. To take pride in your work is to want to do your best, to feel validation for your efforts, to know what you do matters.
But the only ones that want him to succeed are not supporting him. Kun and Pai arguing their positions, though agreeing Haseo is going to do something stupid.
Gee, I wonder why that was.
Because Alcade, like Midori, outclasses him in skill. So to win, he throws away his pride. And with it is a restraint in abusing Skaith's power.
It's not a place where you can whiz just because you say it.
No, not without using the Avatar.
A rival? Him? He looks weak.
That choice is one he instantly regrets. Because she did not deserve her talent, her effort, so mercilessly stomped on and ground away. The consequence of this is now Alcade sees Haseo as no better than Endrance, desperate to win at any cost.
And he is, you know? I mean, I've been stressing the role of responsibility, but there's a point where you can take it too far. One of the reasons I don't like Roots is it fails to establish the obsession we see in the early half of GU that Haseo has towards getting Shino back. Anything which will further stymie his quest to save her, any sign of weakness within himself, causes him to lash out and lose control. But with Skaith Awakening, it feeds on that self-loathing. And that is the danger.
Another one is Kun taking this as evidence that Haseo cares not one bit of holding back on his use of the Avatar, resolving to face them in the finals.
I'll teach him how frightening avatars truly are.
Crap, he's going to make him marathon James Cameron, M. Night Shyamalan, and The Legend of Korra. Run, Haseo, run! Before it's too late! Flee for your lives!